I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad.
Week 5 in the NFL is just around the corner. It includes the first game here in the UK. And as always at Across the Gridiron, we are here to throw our predictions and just see how much or how little the two of us actually know when it comes to predicting the NFL. As always, I am with the man, the myth, the legend, Eddie Equo, to make our picks. Eddie, how you doing, my friend? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been good. I'm really excited about the London game. It's the first one this year. I know something happened in Ireland last week, but I'm really feeling I'm feeling good. My tickets just came for the London game, so really looking forward to it. It's been a good week. I mean, I do feel a little bit sore today, and so we are really putting in the craft for this one because it's late on a Thursday. We're recording this, so yeah, looking forward to it. How have you been?
Yeah, not too bad. Just trying my best not to feel too jealous that you will be at the game at Wembley and I will be watching it at home. But never mind, I will try and get through this with gritted teeth. But let's just get straight into it, because I'm sure everyone who's watching this will want to see just how well we did last week. So Eddie, obviously we picked 5 games last week. How do you think you did, top of your head? Can you remember how well you did?
Oh, I think it was disastrous, because I picked against the Eagles, and I know that that didn't go well. And I think I picked against the Chiefs.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we just find out?
Yeah.
So, I'm this may or may not work because this is the first time we're trying it this way. First of all, Eddie, like every business meeting up and down the land, can you see my screen?
I can't see a screen.
You can see my screen. Fantastic. Okay. Well, first of all, let's look at the first game that we picked. We had the Eagles at the Bucks. Now, Eddie, as you rightly said, you picked the Buccaneers. I picked the Eagles. Oh, look at that. That's a point for me. That's a good start. Ravens at the Chiefs. We never said bet against the Chiefs. I didn't bet against the Chiefs. You did. Okay, that's a nice point for me. Now, obviously, we both picked the Packers, but this was a draw, right? So, right. Unless you're going to suggest a tie, we could call it a half, but let's just leave it at 0. Vikings at the Steelers. You went for the Vikings. Of course, I went for the Steelers. So again, that's another one for me. And then the last game, I thought, right, CJ Stroud will get it back together. You thought he wouldn't. And yeah, again, okay, I got that one right. So so when you said you had it a bit of a disaster, this is without question the worst prediction week any of us have ever done. Now, considering that we call you our kind of experts in this, and I'm kind of just like the happy-go-lucky host, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Because, I am terribly. This was, honestly, I had a bad feeling as soon as the Eagles game happened. I was just like, oh, goodness me, this is not... And the way that the game happened as well, because you know what? They gave me a bit of life. They gave me a bit of hope. I thought they were coming back, to steal this win, but no. And then the Eagles game sort of finished, and I turned around to look at the Chiefs, and they were way ahead in that game. And I thought, okay, this is not good.
No, and that bears it out in our little league table. Measuring consistency. But Eddie, my days. So you now have a losing record going into this.
That's like my Cowboys.
You are very much the Dallas Cowboys of this predictions.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know what I need to do now.
You need to win this weekend, Eddie. That is what you need to do.
I need to win this weekend.
Where's our first organ? There we go. So you've got a lot of ground to make up on. So, and again, I say this every single week, you pick the games most of the time. yet you still manage to pick them wrong every time. But
this
last week is gone. As you said, week as every football up and down the land tweaks every time they lose.
Memory.
Exactly. We go again, come back stronger. So let's look at predictions for this week, and we're going to start by predicting the game in London. Let's just start there. You're going to it. You're excited. I'm not. I'm going to be at home with the family. But we have the Vikings at the Browns.
Yes.
Vikings have clearly got the better record. Well, say clearly, they're sort of 2-2, with the Browns at 1-3. I think the most interesting thing in this game, Eddie, is that Browns are changing their quarterback.
Yeah.
You've got Dillon Gabriel is going to be starting for taking the first snap here for Browns, which was a big decision to drop Flacco. Before we go into predictions, it's worth just getting your take on that before we get into it.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Flacco was for a good time, not a long time. And I don't
it wasn't a very good time.
It wasn't a very good time. It wasn't a very good time at all. It didn't make any sense. And we're talking about it in preseason. What is Flacco doing there? He's 40-something-year-old. And he's not the Tom Brady kind of 40, because there's a different kind of, he's more like our kind of 40 than the Tom Brady kind of 40.
Speak for yourself, Eddie. Speak for yourself.
So, I mean, it was only a matter of time, before they had to change. The Browns are a soap opera, honestly. They still have people interviewing their third string quarterback, and there's lots of stories around him, what he said, what he didn't say. They had to make a change because the Browns will believe within that organization that they've got a defense that should be carrying them, and helping them win games if they can just have a competent quarterback, in the offense, just to not make too many mistakes. Now, they have been saying even in preseason that Dillon Gabriel was taking a lot of the first team reps, back then. So it might not be as much of a change as we may have think. Maybe not as much of a change for Dillon Gabriel. I certainly think that because he's a lot younger, we might see him play a little bit differently. He might run as well as throw, so that might add a little bit wrinkle for the Vikings, but they couldn't have chosen a worse defense, to put in their new starter. I think everyone still remembers what the Vikings, did with Isaiah Rodgers, pick six, after pick six. The defense absolutely smashed. What team was that? Was that the Bengals? I think it was the Bengals that they absolutely smashed. And that was a team that was starting a backup quarterback in Jake Browning. So they must be thinking to themselves, another backup quarterback, here we go. And London Vikings have come here a few times, and they've already been in London, already since they were at the island last week. So they're probably more settled compared to the Browns that are probably making their way in. So maybe that counts for something. But I thought it was really interesting that they didn't wait to get to, because most teams wait till week 7, week 8 before they make that change. They've just gone, we've seen enough. Dillon Gabriel, this is your job now.
But do you think that the Giants result last week played a big part in it? Because you saw the Giants struggle with Russell Wilson, veteran quarterback, not getting it done, apart from when he plays, Sunday league defenses like the Dallas Cowboys. They take him out. They put their first rookie. Yeah, they put their rookie QB in Dart, and they get the win. And it automatically feels a lot more positive around the Giants than it did a week ago. Do you think Cleveland are looking at that and thinking, look, it's not working with the old lad? Why don't we just bring in a rookie and see? And I think that so I think that could have played a part. But I also wonder if the fact that this matchup is in London plays another part, because although it's not at home, this would have been a home fixture for Cleveland.
Yeah.
So maybe taking him out of the home debut is maybe seen as a way to maybe ease him in. It'd be a different type of pressure, obviously, in London. There's a lot of eyeballs on him, but they're not going to be all Cleveland fans in there.
No, there won't be all Cleveland fans, and there is. I did think about that. Get him away from the spotlight, get him to London. Although London has been notorious for getting coaches sacked. Remember Jets last year? They came to London. Aaron Rodgers looked terrible, and then the coach shortly followed afterwards. Yeah, I think you might have a point there. They looked at the Giants, and we always say that the NFL is a copycat league, right? People look at what other teams done and say, well, can we do that as well? And if for anything that's worth the unpredictability, bringing Jaxson Dart, into the game, and would certainly add a spark for them. And they hope that if their defense plays the way the defense can play, then it would give Dillon Gabriel just a few more opportunities to try and win the game for them, right? So, I mean, you've got Carson Wentz on the other side, because I think they're still sticking with Carson Wentz going into this game. Who you could argue is probably a more experienced quarterback. And if you give Carson Wentz time and protect him, then you can be sure that he can be efficient, I would say. You're not going to see crazy numbers in this sort of game. This is not going to be your 250, 300 and so passing yard game. This is going to be around the one-something game, right? And then it's going to be about which team wins the turnover battle. I think this game is really going to be about that. Who wins the turnover battle?
Well, there's a question for you, Eddie. First prediction: who is going to win the turnover battle? Who have you got to win this one?
I don't know. I've seen the Browns play a few times. I saw Dillon Gabriel play in the preseason. He had one good game, one not so good game. So it's a little bit mixed. I'm gonna go with the Vikings. I'm gonna go with the Vikings in this one. I think that they have more complementary football right now. Offense, defense, special teams, and they've put it together before this season. So that gives me confidence. I just don't know what Dillon Gabriel is going to look like against NFL defenses, because that's different. Preseason is different from, the number ones in the defense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm also putting Vikings down as well. Because look, I think if Dart hadn't done what he did last week for the Giants, I think they probably would have waited a couple of weeks before they put Dillon in. May have even waited to the bye week. I don't know when Cleveland's bye week is, but it might have even waited to that to give him just an extra week in of reps. But I think they've just taken this opportunity. They've seen what's happening in New York. The fact that they're in London, less pressure will put him in. The problem is, I don't think, I may be proven wrong, but I don't think Dillon Gabriel is Jaxson Dart. Right.
Yeah.
And
first round, third round.
Exactly. Both teams are, both teams aren't particularly great, but they're up against the mean defense. I just think Vikings are going to come and do it. I mean, Vikings are 2-2. So I've got Vikings. Vikings going to end this weekend on a winning record. So let's move on. So let's move on to the next. What we decided to do this week is, because there aren't really a lot of heavyweight clashes. There aren't many teams with winning records playing teams with winning records. So instead, we decided to call this bit the loser battle this week. Battle of the losers. Every team that we're going to be putting up for, apart from obviously the Vikings, all have losing records. So something's going to have to give essentially this week. So let's see who is going to let's see who we think is going to come in. So we're going to start with the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, both of these teams are 1-3 going into this, which is more of a surprise for one team than it is of the other. But it's fair to say that both teams have underperformed, right? Texans have underperformed. CeeDee Stroud hasn't quite hit the heights that people thought they would. And the Baltimore defense, we talked about it in our review episode. The defense has just been absolutely meager for the Ravens.
Yeah.
But they're at home against the Houston Texans. This gives them an opportunity to bag another win and get closer to that sort of equal record. So I don't mind saying mine first.
Yeah.
I'm going for Baltimore to win this one. Just to as just the way to get back on track a little bit. I do think Houston could trouble them if CJ Stroud has a good game. He has a few weapons, but he looked better last week. Obviously, they completely shut out the Titans. But I think you and I probably could have shut out the Tennessee Titans. I think so. Yeah. It's for Houston playing against Lamar. If Lamar is fit, is going to be significant challenge compared to going up against the Tennessee offense. But what about you? Where do you see this going?
And I think that's the key statement. If Lamar is fit, I heard something about the Baltimore Ravens today, and it was via Dan Orlovsky, who ESPN, and he said something that was shocking, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit. We talked about this a lot last season, and we said we cannot understand why Baltimore Ravens would have Derrick Henry and not rely on him, right? And it was always very strange because it always felt like they were always trying to prove that Lamar is a superstar, we're winning by Lamar and all of that. And Dan Orlovsky said that the Baltimore Ravens are 32nd. Now, bearing in mind that there are 32 teams in the league, so they are dead last in teams that in the first and second down, they run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they are dead last. That means that they don't run the ball in first and second downs. But guess what? When they do run the ball in first and second downs, they are second in the league.
Wow.
So it's that for me is malpractice. It's malpractice, especially when you have someone like Derrick Henry. So I think that this is going to be the game that they are eventually going to have to let Derrick Henry lose because Lamar is still struggling with hamstring issues. And I don't care, how superhuman you are. When it's hamstring, it's at least a minimum of 10 days. Now, if it's like the minute hamstring, so to think that he will come back and play this game, I think is a long shot. So I think it's going to be Cooper Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Our Cooper Rush from the Dallas Cowboys. I'm saying our, like as if I have some kind of claim in the Cooper Rush fandom. It's funny though, I actually do have a Cooper Rush shirt, which I don't know what possessed me to buy a Cooper Rush shirt. I think I probably saw him in preseason and he looked decent. I thought, oh, there you go. I'm gonna go buy. He might be that next, Cowboy quarterback that we fall in love with. Yeah, that's a different story. So Cooper Rush is probably going to play. I think they're going to lean on Derrick Henry. They have no choice now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the decision is taken out of their hands. And I think like you, I'm going to go with Ravens only because they have to lean on Derrick Henry, who is by far better than whatever, Texans have gone the other side. Now, Texans, are going to look at Nico Collins. He's a stud over there. CJ Stroud would have some confidence after that game. But I don't think the Texans are right yet. I don't think that by any stretch of the imagination, CJ Stroud is back. So I think that at some point, this Baltimore defense is going to be able to stop a nosebleed, right? They've got to do something different. And I think this is a game that they do that. So I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one.
Okay, both going for Vikings.
With the Ravens. I don't know why I said Vikings. The Ravens.
Oh yeah, so yeah, okay, Ravens. Okay, let's try and whittle through these three a little bit quickly to try and keep this under half an hour, because I know what game's coming up in a bit, and I know you're going to want to talk for about half an hour on that one. But let's look at the next one. We've got the Dolphins at the Panthers. Again, 2 1-3 teams. Dolphins Monday Night Football got their first win in the season against New York Jets. That was a positive. The negative, of course, is that Tyreek Hill is out for the season with a terrible injury. Literally the worst type of injury you can get was a dislocated knee, and tore this, and it was shocking. So we wish the cheetah well, and hope he'll come back stronger next year, and hopefully he'll come back as a Dolphin. But there was lots of talk about his trade, but God gives with one hand for the Dolphins, and he pulls it away with another as well. They're up against Carolina, who again they are 1-3. Obviously, outside of that very impressive victory they had over Atlanta, I think in week 2, they have again looked poor. They're constantly trying to rebuild the squad, but again, they seem to be another team in regression. So again, where do you go? Do you go on a team with like Miami, who are off the back of a win, but have lost one of their main weapons? Or do you go for Carolina, who are the home side, but just seem to almost regress week in, week out? I'm going to wait for you to pick this one first.
I mean, the Panthers are the worst defense, right? And to be fair, when I say that, it might actually be disrespectful to the word worst, because they don't look very good at all. And you've got the Panthers and Bryce Young. I'm not quite sure what's happening to him. He had sparks of life last season, and he went on this tear where he was winning games he shouldn't be winning, and being very competitive. But this league is so hard. It's so hard for quarterbacks, especially when you're chosen that high. There's so many expectations for you, and a lot of number one picks that are still finding their way. Look at Trevor Lawrence, still finding his way. Maybe in recent years, maybe Baker Mayfield is the one that has found a home and is now looking like a competent quarterback. And people are even talking about him in the MVP conversation, so far based on what he's done. But Bryce Young has been anything but that. And I don't know what the Panthers are going to have to do. Whether it's coaching, how do you surround him with better players to elevate him to a point where he builds confidence and learn? Because it's hard to learn when you're losing. It really is.
It's hard to learn when you're lying down on the floor after being sacked 100 times.
Exactly. So I look at this game and I cannot pick the Panthers. And look, Tyreek Hill is important, but let's not pretend like he was absolutely tearing it up with the Dolphins up until now, right? They were sort of, managing their offense with little or no Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying that he wasn't there, but it wasn't like he was having 100-yard game, every game, and they were losing. So I think that for the Dolphins, they can pivot a little bit. You still got Waddle, you still got Achane, who are players that can, deliver. And then you've got a couple of other players that are going to step up, into it. So, and you got Tua, which is more important, for me, for Dolphins. You've got Tua, you've got half a chance, right? And he can get hot. So
he can. So you're going Dolphins then?
I'm going Dolphins. Dolphins.
So am I. Every time I put Dolphins this year, they've lost. So I'm going to go for Dolphins anyway. Right, the next one. I'm going to challenge you, Eddie, to try and keep this under a couple minutes. We are going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Jets. Cowboys have that really anomaly of having a 1-2-1 record, while the Jets are 0-4. Right, so they have lost every game so far this season. I am going to predict that the Jets get their first win of the season, really, in this week, just to see the look on your face. That's the one thing I want to try and do. And also, I know you're going to go for the Cowboys, and so far we've picked the same 3 teams, so we have to do something different. Although, to be honest, just to make it interesting, although to be honest, if I pick the same team as you every single week, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this thing anyway, right? So, so I'm going to go for the Jets. I'm going to give you a minute to make the case for Dallas.
I am worried because the last time the Jets came with an 0-4 record to the Cowboys, they had Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold looked like Eli Manning. He looked like Peyton Manning. He looked like Aaron Rodgers. And the Cowboys were down by 2 scores before you could blink. And I was like, what is going on in that game? And I think Cowboys lost that game. And I actually saw the Jets, tweet that, as they were preparing for this game. So they clearly haven't forgotten. Just to remind the Dallas Cowboys who might be thinking that, 0-4 means that the Jets are going to lie down and get their bellies tickled. But I think that the Cowboys showed me something against the Packers. And I know it feels like, deja vu because I said that. The Cowboys showed me something against the Eagles. They showed me something against the Giants, and they showed me something against what was the other team that we lost to? I can't even remember now. I've taken it out of my.
They show you something every week: how to not defend.
Yeah. So, listen. I expect the Dallas Cowboys to put up points. And if they play a clean game, I think Dak Prescott, can keep up with most quarterbacks in terms of scoring. I know that the Cowboys defense is not any good, and at some point they have to come good. I don't know if it's this Sunday. I'm not going to put my money on it. Not going to put my house. I would even put, a doorknob, on them, being this good this season. But I think Josh Pickens, showed me he could step up, in CeeDee's absence. He did well. I am worried, though, because I heard reports that Cavante Toppin might be an injury doubt, that he hurt his toe against the Packers. And he's important for special teams, right? The Cowboys need to have good field positions to get confidence, in this game. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys just.
Of course. You may as well just said. You may have just said it.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys just.
Yeah. I mean, that was fairly obvious. All right. So you've got Cowboys. I'll go for the thing just for your reactions. I mean, it's funny. There was an article in The Athletic I was flicking through before, saying that one of the leading MVP candidates is Dak Prescott, because he's carrying the Cowboys team, right, from an offensive, certainly from an offensive perspective. But one of the one thing that we've noticed or we've talked about is that since you've lost a certain Micah Parsons, that the run defense of the Cowboys is poor. And Justin Fields, if you saw the highlights against Miami on Monday, he did one of the best quarterback runs that I've seen in recently. He did a 43-yard touchdown, whatever it was. It was absolutely insane. So they have a quarterback. They have a quarterback with legs. So I think it's got the potential to be a high-scoring game. It's just how many of those points actually come the way of the Cowboys. But let's move on to our final game. We've got the 1-3 Giants at the 0-4 Saints. I mean, the overreaction or the snap judgment, which we haven't actually done a snap judgment this week, but the snap judgment is that, Jaxson Dart is going to be the best quarterback in the NFL history. He's going to beat all Tom Brady records. He's going to carry the Giants to an undefeated season for the rest of the season. He had a good debut, without question. I think he carries on that good run of form against this. I mean, the Saints have been hapless, haven't they? Really, so far. I say Dart carries it on, and New York get the win. Can you make any case for the Saints? Or are you also going New York?
Yeah, I remember in the start of the season we were talking about the Saints, and we were talking about Kellen Moore, and at that time, Derek Carr had just announced his retirement, and we're saying, oh my goodness, it seems like Kellen Moore is being set up to fail, because he must have taken that job thinking, I've got a quarterback that's competent, and we know that Kellen Moore can coach a quarterback. See what he did with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott took a huge leap when Kellen Moore was his offensive coordinator. And the Dallas Cowboys were like the number one offensive team. I know that didn't translate to the playoffs and Super Bowl or anything like that. But just in terms of how the offense was humming, Dak Prescott, was looking lights out, under Kellen Moore. And then you switch over, Kellen Moore goes to the Eagles, offensive coordinator there. And you saw the way Jalen Hurts played, right? And remember, he was on track to be the MVP, was being mentioned in the MVP line. And since Kellen Moore has left, it's been a little bit more of Jalen Hurts, can he throw? Can he, is this Saquon Barkley or Boston, all of that? I think the point I'm making is that you can't be a good chef if you don't have good ingredients. And I think that the Saints don't really have. I mean, you've got Spencer Rattler there. You've got Tyler Shocks. There for the Saints. None of those strike any fear on anybody that is coming into the game. So it's a tough one, and I agree with you. I think the Giants, they just look like a more competent team. They've got a better defense. I think the defense will nullify the Saints. And then, I think even without neighbors, I think that the Giants can still make hay in this game. So I'm going to go with the Giants to win this one.
Okay, so the picks are in. Obviously, the only difference we have is the Cowboys game, which I think is just going to be, that's just going to be us every single week. You picking Cowboys to win, me picking Cowboys to, and me Cowboys to lose. But yeah, look, Eddie, look, great talking to you as always. I'll give you the final word as always. Take us home. Tell us how excited you are about Sunday.
I am very excited, guys. And if you do come across, for all of those fans in the UK, do say hello. I'll be wearing my Cowboys jersey. My
shock
a shock. I might think, which Cowboy, jersey do I go with, for this one? But listen, right, the NFL is in. I think we're now at the first quarter of the NFL season, and people are already writing their either celebratory, congratulatory notes about their teams getting into the playoffs, or already writing their obituaries about draft picks, for next season. Either way, I think this is going to be one for us to enjoy. I think this NFL season, because none of the big hitters, are showing the form that we thought they were going to be. The Chiefs, the Giants, the Ravens, Bengals, everyone is showing a bit of frailty, other than the Eagles. Okay, right. Do hit that subscribe button, guys, and don't forget to check out other videos on NFL as well. And we do want you to participate, so join in the conversation as well. Beat it in the comments. Let's know what you think about our picks. Let's all also know what you think about any of the takes that we had. And until the next one, I'll see you across the gridiron.
I'm the bad guy.